I must have done hundreds and hundreds of laps around that kitchen, and with Eleanor in a pram, Eleanor, that's my daughter's name, obviously, about 3 a.m., numerous occasions just to get her off to sleep.
Welcome to this episode of the Bump in the Road podcast. Bump in the Road is brought to you by Derbyshire Family Health Service, part of Derbyshire Community Services NHS Foundation Trust. Today, Rob is talking about the ups and downs he experienced when his daughter was born. From managing his anxiety for his pregnant partner, to coping with hospital visits when his baby was unwell. Rob discusses what helped him during this time in his life. Please be warned that this podcast may cover sensitive topics. If you feel like you need support, our contact details are listed at the end.
Well, at first, I'd say it was a huge shock because we'd been through IVF and that failed, sadly. So it was a really emotional time. But then only a month later, my now wife, Leanne, fell pregnant naturally, as it were. And it almost made it extra special for both of us. And I mean, to this day, I still believe that the IVF and the various medication actually helped us in some way. I mean, the pregnancy was during 2021 as well, so it was in the throes of the COVID pandemic. So personally, I do admit I was a very anxious partner, probably too protective. I think my biggest worry was Leanne getting poorly with everything that was going on around us, and obviously risking the health of our yet to be born little baby. So I do remember one particular example. We'd gone Christmas shopping in 2021. It was, shopping's Leanne's absolute favorite pastime. Not mine necessarily, but honestly, I didn't want anyone to be anywhere near her for fear of her catching the bug, as we called it. And I think maybe my paranoia got a bit too much in that case because it annoyed Leanne so much. I do remember we fell out a little bit that day, and I think she knew my heart was in the right place, but it was just I did find that a bit difficult with everything that was going on. I also remember Leanne, struggling with her own health. I know she pulled a intercostal muscle, I think it was, and really struggled with that, and even had SPD, which I did have to Google earlier because I couldn't remember what it stood for. It's symphysis pubis dysfunction, so it caused her a great deal of pain around the groin area. So I kind of struggled with that as well because there wasn't a great deal I could do to help. And then I remember very clearly the day of the 20-week scan. We went to Burton Hospital, well, Queen's Hospital in Burton, and I remember getting the news literally in the car park that my granddad had passed away at the grand old age of 101. So all in all, it was a particularly emotional time. But I do want to say how brilliant the paediatric team at Queen's Hospital were throughout the whole period. They were wonderful. I'm really lucky to have a very autonomous job, really, really supportive team and manager, and kind of wider network. So that I think that was really helpful. I also tried to maintain my own personal outlets. I love my outdoors. I love my exercise. Walking in the hills, playing squash, etc. That's, to be honest, it's always been something that's really helped certainly my mental well-being. Well, unless of course I lose at squash, but that's a different story entirely. So I think we were all very much filled with love at first. Welcomed a fourth member of the household. I remember having 3 weeks off work, paternity leave, but it was 3 weeks of continuous crying and noise and mess and the lack of sleep, etc. So we've actually got an island in our kitchen, and I must have done hundreds and hundreds of laps around that island with Eleanor in a pram. Eleanor, that's my daughter's name, obviously, about 3 a.m., numerous occasions just to get her off to sleep when white noise and all else failed. So yeah, I certainly got my steps in around that time. But then at 7 weeks, things changed again. We found a non-blanching rash on Eleanor's tummy and her thighs. Ended up heading to ED at Burton again and spending more than a week at Queen's Hospital, again with suspected viral meningitis, which was obviously really, really difficult and very worrying. So Leanne and I both did sort of 24-hour shifts in a little side room on the peds ward for the whole time. But thankfully, she's made a really, really good recovery now. It was just a bit of a big scare at the time, but just to have so many lovely messages from friends and people at work, text messages from exec team, it was absolutely lovely, and something I'll never forget. That level of support and compassion. I think having a really supportive wife is always good. We almost had our own little bubble at home. We've got amazing families as well who always drop anything to, in a heartbeat, they'd be there for us. So that was great. I mean, midwife visits were reassuring and a chance to ask any questions, although that was so solely focused on Eleanor and Leanne, rightly so, absolutely rightly so. But I don't remember any questions about the father. I know, clearly should be weighted towards the mother and the baby, and I certainly don't mean poor me, by the way, or not at all. But it's I just think there must be a lot of dads out there who absolutely do struggle. So I'm sure they would probably value that type of support if it were available. But I mean, I didn't particularly struggle myself. I think coped relatively well because of my network and friends, family members, loved ones. But yeah, I feel really fortunate to have had that. And I could imagine it would be really difficult for some dads or parents who don't necessarily have that same level of support or networks, contacts, or even close family and professional or other sort of relationships. So, yeah. Of the 2 month to 1 year stage, life changes quickly. I mean, they start crawling, walking, which just means bumps and bruises, doesn't it? And they also, obviously, I remember first starting to eat solid foods, so having many a panic attack when she appeared to be choking on something. And I think it was at that stage she started interacting a lot more with her brother, who's 8, and he's absolutely brilliant with her, by the way. And family members as well, which was just lovely to see, because they do more at that age, don't they? They're almost more fun. So, and then by 1, we were trying to prepare her for nursery, which I remember really pulled on the heartstrings, because I guess we were letting her go to people we didn't really know. So that was quite difficult for me. But I mean, just to say, she's settled in really well now. She's thriving in the toddler's room. She's actually the only girl with 11 boys, which I was worried about, but the nursery staff have told me you've got nothing to worry about at all. And I mean, funny story, we recently got her first nursery report. Apparently she's doing really, really well in all aspects except her patience, apparently, especially at meal times, demanding a pudding when her little friends are still eating their mains. So I found that funny. And then they mentioned, and I quote, that they need to develop her skills to better respond to and cooperate with boundaries. So I think the write-up said she'll turn her back on them and pretend she can't hear them if it's something she doesn't want to do. So it kind of sounds like she's the same little pint-sized dictator at nursery that she sometimes tries to be at home, and bossing people around. But I guess it's funny at this stage, but I'm telling myself it's because she's very bright and independent little lady. She had a few, I mean, I've been very open about this with colleagues and whatnot, but she had a few further health scares in her first 12 months or so. So more trips back to the same, ironically, the exact same room on the peds ward, who were great again, the staff there. But that was difficult, dealing with more health scares. I think it was bronchiolitis in October. So she'd have been 9 months old, and then 13 months, she was diagnosed with HSP, which I'd never heard of, and I think it's pronounced Henoch-Schönlein purpura. So she caught that really early, because I think it can do damage to your kidneys if it's left untreated. So thankfully, caught it really early. She's gone back every month for 6 months, and all clear again now. So she had a bit of a bumpy ride, I guess, in the first 12 to 13 months, but since then she's absolutely, strong and thriving. So for me, it was, obviously that was difficult to deal with, but again, I was really, really well supported at work, close family network, good circle of friends. We're fortunate. One of my wife's best friends is a pharmacist and lecturer, so we had her on speed dial, saying, "Look at this rash. What does this? What do you think to this?" But yeah, like I said, Eleanor's absolutely fine. She's really thriving now. But those episodes just, I guess, made us a bit more paranoid than we might have been at that time. In terms of advice, I'd say sleep whenever you can possibly sleep. A lack of sleep will get absolutely anyone in the end, I think. So I do remember my boss being incredibly supportive when I first returned from paternity leave. He trusted me to work flexibly and do my job around those sorts of issues or any sleepless nights that I had. So that was fantastic, and you couldn't ask for better support than that from an employer. Another bit of advice I'd probably give is accept help. Don't be too proud or think you know it all from reading books or even listening to podcasts like this. Yeah, obviously they can prepare you well, but I found anyway, all of the sort of new parent ideologies very quickly go out the window. One of my best friends he's a relatively new parent as well, and so we've swapped notes on various things, which has been helpful. And for second time parents, I'd say absolutely don't expect the second baby to be anything like your first in any respect. And then finally, I'd make time for the parents as well. Make time for mum and dad and try and prioritize. Some of my friends have got really, really good babysitting networks, which I'm quite jealous of, to be honest. But definitely prioritize the babysitting network and your contacts in that respect, and make time for each other.
If you're struggling with your well-being during pregnancy or with your baby and you feel like you need some support, you can contact Derbyshire Family Health Service on 01246 515100 and make an appointment with a health visitor. You can also text us on 07507 327769. This is a confidential text messaging service for parents-to-be and parents and carers of 0 to 5-year-olds, providing advice and support from one of our healthcare professionals from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m, excluding bank holidays. You can also visit our website at derbyshirefamilyhealthservice.nhs.uk.